As the world celebrates Easter, Resurrection Sunday, people are just going to churches nowadays. People are just busy with a lot of things. But thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate the Resurrection Sunday. If you're joining us for the first time, we're just doing a series of the Resurrection, and this is the second Sunday. I gave the multimedia team a hard attack because I think what I had was the old from the last Sundays. Did we have it right this time? Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you have your Bibles with you, thank you, Holy, for reading the scripture. If you have your Bibles with you, let's open to John chapter 20. And we'll be focusing on, for lack of better words, it's simply entitled How Easter Changes Everything, John 20, 11 to 18. So let me just jump into the passage here. There's so much into this passage. And the disciples went back to their homes. Okay, pause. If you read the story earlier, so Mary Magdalene was going to the tomb, and she found out that the tomb was empty. The stone was rolled away. There was no guards, no Roman soldiers. Nothing was in there. And Mary said, there was no Jesus in the tomb. So she went back where the disciples were. And then Mary said, hey guys, Jesus is not there anymore. Jesus is not there anymore. And then so the disciples went into the tomb. Okay. You check it out. Hey, the tomb is empty. Jesus' body is not in the tomb. And then it kicks in. This is where it all starts. Verse 10. Okay, this is very important. Verse 10. Then the disciples went back home. Okay? So the disciples who were with Jesus for the past 3 years, the disciples who were with Jesus when they saw Jesus walk in water. They saw Jesus raise Lazarus from the dead. They were with Jesus 24/7, 365 days. They were with Jesus. But then they found out that Jesus' body was no longer there. Hey guys, it's gone. Let's go home. Oh wait, verse 11. But Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to go into the tomb, and saw 2 angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been. The Bible describes the two people, what's the best term? The 2 entities inside the tomb were angels. But Mary, of course, Mary didn't recognize that. He saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, and one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, woman, why are you crying? Mary really thought that these 2 were gardeners. They were literally angels there. Mary thought they were gardeners. So they asked her, woman, why are you crying? Mary said, they have taken my Lord away, she said. And I don't know where they have put her. But then she turned around and saw Jesus. Okay, again, Jesus was already standing there. Verse 14. At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that he was Jesus. Okay, there's so much in this passage to digest, to take in. But simply, let me just. The resurrection happens when you least expect it. So of course, the disciples went there. They were so sad. Hey, what happened? Where did they take Jesus' body? Okay, the mentality was, he's dead. Because they saw him die, literally died on the cross. I mean, to make sure that Jesus is dead, they even pierce him with a spear. Just to make sure he's dead. And he's really dead. He's really dead. And they saw it. They saw it. And now his body's gone, and they have this kind of mentality that he's still dead. Okay. First thing I'd like to share this morning is resurrection happens when we least expect it. Let's go back to Mary. Mary looked into the tomb where Jesus had been laid, and all she can see is what is missing. And she fails to see what is in there. It's Christ. She's so focused on the fact that his body is nowhere to be seen that she misses the two angelic beings who were seated where Jesus was. Right? Well, sometimes it happens to us that we're just so fixated with one thing that all we could see around us is nothing. I just read this story. There was this man who inherited a property, and so when he saw that letter from the lawyer, he was so excited. Wow, I'm gonna have a house of my own. I'm gonna have this bedroom. I'm gonna decorate. I mean, he was so fixated with the house. He was so fixated with the house that, oh, you know what? I'm gonna convert my kitchen into like industrial kitchen, like the one you see on TV. They're big and all this. That I could cook and then he was already dreaming of what he was gonna do with the house. And then the lawyer brought him to his property, and there was no house. And then he was kind of disappointed. He said, hey, where's my inheritance? And they said, hey, Mr. Smith, this is your inheritance. As far as you could see in the east, and as far as you could see in the west, this property is yours, and it's a beachfront. And the guy said, where's the house? Sir, you could build hundreds of houses here in front of the beach. And the guy says, I'm so disappointed, there's no house. Know what I'm trying to say? Sometimes we're just so fixated with one thing that we fail to see the very blessings in front of us. We're just so fixated, I want this, I want this, I want this. But God has already given us more than we can expect or imagine, and still we fail to see. But that is exactly the experience of Mary here. She wanted to see a dead body. Because she went there because she wants to put oil. Basically, she wants to minister to a dead body. And she was crying because there's no more body. Because in her mind, she really thought that there was still a body. But in fact, Jesus was already resurrected from the dead. When our dreams are shattered and our future becomes so clear, it becomes all too easy to see what had not happened. I don't know. It's so easy to what had happened, or to notice what we don't have, or remember what they did not do, and to look what is missing. When things fail us, the things that we notice is the things that we do not get. The people who are supposed to help us that didn't help us. And these are the things that we easily see around us, that we fail to realize that it was God who brought us into that event in our lives in the first place. I wish some of us here have that kind of experience. If we pray something and it didn't happen, we fail to realize, hey, there is blessing in there. But all we could see is just the pain, the hurt, the discouragement that it brought. That's exactly the experience of Mary had in me. She was expecting a dead body where she could just put some oil in it, but the body was gone, and she was so fixated with it, she failed to realize and appreciate the bigger picture. The body's not there because Jesus is alive. Verse 14 says, she did not realize it was Jesus. Resurrection was standing right in front of her, and she was unable to see because of the fog of the Spirit. after all, Mary had not come to the tomb expecting Jesus alive. She came expecting to find his lifeless. Isn't that a reflection of us, church? We become so disappointed because God didn't answer our prayer, not knowing that God has already prepared a bigger, unexpected blessing for us. That God has already orchestrated immeasurable, unimaginable blessing for us, and all we could do is God didn't answer our prayers. We should not go to life like that. I know, got frustrated, got upset, got discouraged because things didn't happen our way. But look at it. That's exactly what resurrection means to us. God has prepared something bigger, something unimaginable, something that we could not even expect for us. And that's why I'm so excited, because that reminds us Easter is not only Jesus resurrecting from the dead and just completing the promises. That's one big thing. That's a big thing. But as we wait for heaven, there's also a secondary thought that Jesus has prepared something big for us. Verse 15 says here, "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you're looking for?" Thinking he was, okay, remember there was two angels there? There were really two angels there, and Jesus was there, but Mary didn't realize these were angels and that Jesus was really alive. Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." And this is where the kicker is. Jesus said to her, "Mary." Wow. The moment she heard her name, Mary turned around toward Christ, and then she realized, Jesus. So what is this? What is it all? Did Mary have a lapse of memory? Did she encounter dementia all of a sudden? And then went, no. What the Bible is trying to say is this, that Jesus has to remind her of who she is to Jesus. That's why the name Mary. It was only then that Mary realized that she was talking to Jesus when Jesus called her name. That's why names are very powerful. I don't know. I've been, I don't know if you care anyone with dementia or with Alzheimer. I'm visiting my mom in the facility. And the doctor told me, "Andrew, every time you talk to your mom, you always call her by her first name. You don't call her Inay. You don't call her Nanay. Don't call her Mana. You call her by her first name. Because there's something wired in someone's mind and brain, but every time they hear that name, for one reason or another, that connects to a lot of memories. So when I visit my mom at the facility, I call her Norina. I don't call her Inay. Nanay. I call her Norina. And sometimes it's a little bit painful because I never grew up calling my mom. It's the first name. But she was in that stage that you have to call her by first name. So that will trigger in her minds the memories of her families, the memories of her loved ones, the memories of who she is. And that's exactly why Jesus called her Mary. The second point this morning is this. Resurrection comes just at the right time. Just as Mary has given up all hope, Jesus meets her in her tears. Why are you crying? He asks. So that Jesus speaks Mary's name, she recognizes him and calls him teacher. In the middle of her darkest moment, Easter came just in time. And that is exactly is the message this morning. God will always come just in time for us. We thought that this is our perfect timing. Maybe we thought that this is our time. But you have to remember, God has a perfect time for us. And sometimes that timing doesn't really match with one another. Oh, I want to be, when I reach this age, I want to be this, or I want to accomplish this, or I want to purchase my house at the age of this, or I want to buy my first car at the age of this, and all these things. I want to have a retirement of $100,000 by the time I age 30 years old. So we all have our own schedules. And guess what? If you're a Christian and you call him Lord, there's a kind of different here. There's a different dynamics. Your timing could be different from God's timing. But you have to be by faith that God's timing is always perfect. Okay? Resurrection comes at just the right time. Martin Luther once said, our Lord has written the promise of resurrection, not in the books alone, but in the Bible alone, in every living scripture. I don't know if you noticed this. In our neighborhood, there's this big tree. Every winter time, this tree leaves, literally falls. And you could just see this big old tree just literally barren. All you can see is branches and twigs and nothing, barely nothing in it. Barely nothing in it. But I'm telling you, comes springtime. This barren, this big old tree that has nothing in it except twigs and branches will begin to have leaves. Sometimes God has to allow us to pass through barren times. As if nothing is happening to us. We pray a lot, we talk with Him, but nothing is happening around us. That's why we put the barren years. But let me tell you this morning, barren years will come and go, and springtime will come. That's why we always celebrate Easter and springtime, to remind us, yes, we have a harsh winter. A harsh winter. Well, we're lucky we live in California. But what about those places, Montana, North Dakota? Oh my gosh, Minnesota. Now we have an office in Minnesota. Now these guys, to them, -10, -20 every day is normal. They go out in shorts when it's 30, 40, 50 degrees. Tayo na. 60 lang eh. Talaga mo. Upper jacket na agad tayo. Upper jacket. Bili pa. Gloves and all these things. Sometimes God has to allow us to pass through winter times so we really appreciate springtime. The season of God reminds us that God brings life from death, and He can bring life to the most hopeless places. That is always why that time. I love Easter because at the worst time in human history, when everyone thought that Jesus is dead, He rose from the dead. And that gave us hope that what we are longing for, as long as we're living, there is hope. There is always hope. There is always hope. That reminds us of Easter. Yes, we will go to heaven. Yes, I know that. That is my hope. But in the meantime, God promises, I will give you life. And that is an ordinary life, but life filled with hope in the future. That is life this side of heaven. So whatever we pray for, whatever we're asking God for, it will come to an end. It will come to pass. Believe me, it will come to pass. When I was, how old was I? I think I was 18, 19 years old. My mom left us for the U.S. She migrated to the U.S. and left us, all of us. And for the past 10 years, I was living without my mom. 10 years. My mom left us in 1986. My dad, my brothers and sisters, they lived in 1990. Eventually, I moved to the U.S. in 1996. 10 years separated from my mom. But you know what God did? God made sure that I gained what I have lost for 10 years of my mom. And God made sure that He didn't only double my time with my mom, but I will still have almost 30 years with her. As when I said last week, what the devil robbed from us, God will make sure that He repays whatever time, whatever it is that was taken from us. God will make sure that you will have it plus more than that. That's the promise. That's the promise. So don't worry about, you know what? Matanda na ako. You know what? God. That's the beauty of our faith. God could extend your life to regain what was lost. And that is the promise. Seasons of life remind us that God brings life from death. He can bring life to our most hopeless of places. Finally, this. Jesus said, "Do not hold to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord." The disciples might be scratching their heads. Mary, are you okay? We just went there with you, remember? We just saw there's nothing in there. The tomb is empty. There's no body. There's nothing in there. We don't know. And then we just got in there, and all of a sudden you're telling us you have seen the Lord. And she told you that He had seen these things, that He had said these things to her. Jesus is alive. Of all of the characters in the Bible, not Peter, the most, what was the description of Peter? He was the most power forward. If there's a team, Peter is the power forward. John and the disciples, the beloved. Matthew and all this. He was after Mary, who really talked to Jesus on the first day. Mary Magdalene. She was outcast. She was a woman of faith. Call her who? Remember? Her first encounter with Jesus was they were about to kill her. But Jesus said, "Mary, rise up. I do not judge you. Go and see no more." Powerful words that struck Mary's heart. And now we are in this story. The last thing I'd like to share is this. The resurrection is victory over death. If Jesus can overcome death, there's nothing in our lives that He cannot defeat and overcome. There's nothing. I'm telling you right now. There's nothing in this earth that God cannot defeat and overcome for us. In my 27 years of pastoring the church, I've encountered probably 2 or 3 lowest seasons in my life. The first lowest season in my ministry was when Pastor Florendo left the ministry, left the church, and went back to Van Nuys. Because if you don't know the history, Pastor Florendo was the pastor of this church. And then for the next, 4 years, he was training me because I was an assistant. I was a pastor back then. My training was I'm an engineer. I didn't know how to preach, didn't know how to teach, didn't know how to minister, didn't know even how to counsel. I have nothing. But I could teach you mathematics, hydraulics. I could teach you why is the formula of pi, things. I could derive that. I could really teach you how that. But counseling, preaching, teaching, leading Bible study, I was like, no, that's not it. The Pastor Lennon was so patient with me that he guided me the next 4 years, from 96 to 2000. He was with me. Hey. Pastor Andrew. Huwag ganyan. You have to, okay, huwag yung puro kwento. Okay? So you have to read the Bible. You have to exegete. Naku. Pastor means exegete. Ay, naku, section na lang. You have to read the Bible verse by verse by verse by verse. As if there's nothing in this world and you only have one verse, you have to figure out what is God telling you in that verse. So in the next 4 years, I was an apprentice. And after 2000, Pastor Fredo left and went back to Van Nuys. And I was left alone. See, when Pastor Fredo left me in the church, half of the members of the church also left us and joined him back. And we were just left with barely anything in there. And the worst thing is, some pastors in the valley even said, hey, you know what? Naku, iniwan si Pastor Florendo, si Pastor Andrew, mamamatay yung church. The church will die, and you guys will leave. Because Pastor Andrew is not really a pastor. He's an engineer. And that really hurts, you know? People that you really expect encouragement from you are the ones who are really doubting your ministry. And I have to admit now, okay? I didn't graduate from a seminary. I didn't graduate from a Bible school. I didn't have 4 years of preaching experience in the seminary. I never had those kind of, I'm not a traditional pastor. And I understand where they're coming from. Because here in America, in order for you to pastor a church, you have to be a seminary graduate. And when I had heard that, I was really so devastated. God, I obey you, I followed you, and now this is what I'm getting. People were mocking me, which is understandable. Heavily accented pa ako nun. Bupalo. People say, Bupalo. That was me at the beginning. Bupalo. Van Ruiz. I was but my heart is with the Lord. One thing that really struck me is this. Andrew, you're following me, God said. The rest is not really important. That is the message of resurrection to me. Because God wills He fulfilled His promise to you. Church, I know sometimes resurrection is one event in 1 year that we are looking forward because of Easter egg hunt and all of these things. But more than that, resurrection should remind us that when God promised you something, God will fulfill it. Good day. Last week, I just signed a contract. We have another church in Banas. The name of the church is Filipino International Christian Church, Banas. It's a legal entity. There's about 17, 20 people there, mostly seniors. Pastor Corrado is pastoring that church. But we as a church, we adopted them. So right now we are a mother church. We have a daughter church. When I look back and I say, hey, you know what? Had I given up in 2000, we went to San Francisco and joined Yahoo. I don't think there will ever be a church like this. Gusto ko yung buhay sa Yahoo. I don't have to express myself with counseling people in the church. Because naman kasi. I could still have my floppy here. Totally lollipop. Have I just lived the ministry? Go to San Francisco? Oh man. If I had RSGs in Yahoo back then or AOL back then, oh my. I'm boring by now, huh? I don't know. But God has a different plan for me. I stick. Pastor Loretta said to me, Pastor Andrew, why is it after all these years? You're still there. And I told you, Pastor, you left me here. When you left me, I'll be here. I had no idea. 30 years, 20 years, that He will reach back to me again and ask for help. See, what I'm trying to say, church, is this. We all move around in circles. The people that we meet at the bottom right now will be one day be at the top. How you deal with people when they are at the bottom will affect you personally when time has changed. So what I'm trying to say is this. Be kind to everyone. I'm not using the word nice. I'm using the word be kind. Because people at the bottom right now, and you are on top. You know what happens? Season comes, season goes. You may find yourself at the bottom, and people who were used to be at the bottom are now on top. what would you do? Yesterday we saw a neighbor. They were our first neighbor. What was it? 1999. Okay. Did you believe that? 1999, they were our first neighbor. We only have a baby, just the same old as children. We saw them last, you know what? They were so nice to us. Give them a hug, we say hi. They were wonderful people. Imagine if I was so rude with them back then. If I will not move my car because of tight space, hey, that's my parking space. Bahala ka. You know what? If I insist what is right, if I really insist what is right, hey, that's my parking space, that's the front of my house, I have all the rights to park my car. But every time I see them that they're leaving, I make them move their car so they have enough space to move around. They've been to church, I invited them, we ministered to them. We're eating Nino's, right? Nino's of the first daughter. They were so nice to us. They blessed us. Things would have been different if I was so rude to them. Now, even though they're living in other places, they still remember us. Church, you don't have to be super nice. You just have to be kind. You don't have to. I'm telling you, we live in small circles. You cannot spend the rest of your lives hiding from people you have hurt in the past. If you've done that, hey, that's it. But if you be nice and be kind to one another, that's also the beginning of something. And that is wisdom. Jesus is around. And all God's people. Oh, there's so many power.